Hello, and welcome to Voices from the Field, a Mayford podcast where we talk with educators in the field to hear about their insight and what they have to share. My name is Jake Burson, Advocacy Chair for Mayford, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Jenny Linker. Dr. Linker is a full professor at North Dakota State University, where she serves as the head of the School of Education. Concurrently, she serves as the program coordinator for the health and physical education area and oversees their undergraduate programs and online master's program. She completed her PhD in physical education, teacher education at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign in 2011. Prior to completing her doctorate, she taught middle school physical education in Massachusetts and coached collegiate rugby. Welcome, Dr. Linker.
Thank you for having me, Jake.
It's so exciting to be in this space with you. Thank you so much for saying yes to the podcast. Before we get started, I like to ask my guests this question. What's making you smile these days?
Okay, well, we're here in Fargo, North Dakota, so I'll pull up my little accent that I've gathered since living here 14 years. But what's making me really happy is we've been getting some sunshine and some warmer weather, and also my students. My students recently just went to a future professional conference in our state for PE and health that our SHAPE organization facilitates, and they came back super fired up. They're very excited. And actually, one of them was just texting me today that they want to host a booth in our
Oh,
union and start recruiting more students into our program. So, I mean, when you see that enthusiasm and your passion in your students, that definitely makes me smile.
definitely. I agree 100%. That's really unique. Is that something that's common for your students to go to these conferences, or is this something new that just got developed?
I would say this conference has been in place maybe 4 or 5 years, and it was
Okay.
something that one of the institutions, great guy, Chris Mahoney, he's at Jamestown. He decided he wanted to start something for our future professionals and try to get all the college programs collectively together in one part of our state, which is, North Dakota is pretty far. It's about a 4 hour drive from the west side to the east side.
Mhm.
And so it's pretty centralized, and we invite all the college and university professors to give presentations. The students can give presentations, and we usually bring in a guest speaker. So Chris has done a really great job. It's well attended, and our students really enjoy it. It's kind of like their first conference experience, and then it gets them excited to attend our, state conference as well as, our Shape America convention.
It gets them primed at a younger age. That's great. Get them
It
involved
does.
early. So, Dr. Linker, tell us more about who you are and how you started your education journey.
Well, I don't have like the straight path. It was a crooked road to get where I'm at today. I'm currently serving as the head of the School of Education for North Dakota State University. So I oversee right now our higher education program, all of our K-12 teacher licensure programs. Um, we also have ed leadership programs for the people who want to be principals. So this was a role that I took on because we had a need for that, and then kind of voluntold myself to do it. So I'm in this position for this year, and then we'll go back to what I normally do, which is I'm a professor in physical education, teacher education. I primarily teach methods courses for undergrad students. I teach a class at the first, second, third, and fourth year, and then I also teach classes in our online program. But I also coordinate all of the undergrad and master's programs that we currently have. But yeah, the reason why I'm here is because of professors that I had along the way. My original degree, I went to UMass Amherst, whoop, whoop,
Nice.
and I was a psychology, communication disorder double major and started a master's program in speech and language pathology and found I was still playing rugby. I played collegiate rugby my entire undergrad years and just was not really enjoying my grad program that much. And what ended up happening was I had a little bit of a snowboarding accident. And
Mm.
after that, I had to take some time off from school. And in the meanwhile, someone said, "Hey, I got a rugby team. Can you come coach it? That needs, some help." Started coaching, loved it, and then went on and decided I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to get my physical education teacher ed licensure. And so I did that at Westfield State. And Dr. Catherine Stan at one point said, "You're going to do this for a little bit, but then you need to go get your doctorate degree." And I think I laughed at her at that moment. But she saw something that I didn't see yet, and she planted that seed with me. And sure enough, I went out and taught middle school for 4 years and was doing my master's at Bridgewater State. And another professor, Dr. Catherine, she was Pagnano at the time, but now it's Richardson.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know her. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'd asked her for a student teacher. I said, would you ever send a student teacher out to the central part of the state? And she said, I'm sorry, Karen Richardson. You'll have to edit that, Karen Richardson.
Okay.
And she said, well, I don't know why I'd send you a student teacher. And I thought, oh my gosh, she thinks I'm a terrible teacher. She's not going to send me someone. And she goes, you should just be going on to get your doctorate. And that's what it took. It took a second person to say, go do this. And I did it. And so, yeah, I went to University of Illinois. I got to study with some of the best people in our field, Dr. Amy Woods, Dr. Kim Graber, Dr. Darla Castelli. And yeah, I did my PhD in 3 years and found my way to North Dakota State. Been here 14 years, wouldn't trade it for anything.
Wow, what a story. Sounds like a couple of professors who you had a key impact in how you saw you what you wanted to do next, and they really motivated you and inspired you to take that next step, and here you are. So, as far as your PhD, can you tell us a little bit what was it on?
Yeah, so it's technically I have a PhD in kinesiology, which
Okay.
sounds, so much more fancier than what I do. Um, but it's really a concentration in physical education, teacher education. So I
Okay.
was able to take and study research in our field on the art of teaching physical education, and really get some in-depth classes around that. So it's not just a generic, hey, PhD in kinesiology or PhD in education where there's a focus on curriculum instruction. I mean, it was actually focused on physical education, teacher education. So I feel
Right.
very blessed because that's not always the experience that folks have.
So that's interesting. What would be the difference between what you do and then what another professor might do? Is it the classes that you teach or the classes that you took? Because your focus is just on physical education, right? So you're looking at the teaching styles, instructional models, that type of
Hmm.
thing, or
Yep, and then research in our field. So yeah, I mean, within kinesiology, like you might have someone who's a professor in exercise science
Mhm.
or focused on biomechanics, and we are really just honed in on physical education, teacher education, and preparing future teachers.
That's awesome. So, Dr. Licker, can you take me through a typical day? What's that look like for you?
Ah,
And then maybe an atypical day too. You start with a typical day.
yeah, well, I'll say okay in the head role, every day's almost scary. You don't really know what's about to happen. You're
Hmm.
just looking out for the next. You're trying to be as proactive as you can.
Got
So
it.
I might be, I still teach classes, so I might teach a class in the morning, and then I have meetings with faculty, or maybe I have advising appointments with students, meetings with leadership, or maybe around program development or external stakeholders, like our schools in the local area.
Hmm.
So it could be, I mean, a whole range of things going on. In my professor role, it's a little bit more predictable. In the fall, I usually teach 4 classes in a row on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I love that schedule because it reminds me of being a middle school PE teacher again, the
Hmm.
back to back to back.
No break.
No breaks, run to the bathroom in between, grabbing lunch. And then in the spring, I don't actually teach classes because we have, I have a 4 class load per year. Oftentimes, a professor would have maybe like a 2-2 or a 3-3 load, usually
Hmm.
split your classes across the semesters, but just the way our schedule works out, I just happen to teach 4 in a row on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay. So do you like that? You like the way that works, that pattern, that schedule?
I love that. It's just, yeah. Some folks like to have breaks in between, to like recoup and I guess prepare, but to me, I don't need it. I feed off the students and their energy,
Hmm.
and I'm just like, let's go.
Yeah, I'm,
And then I
I'm the
have
same way.
another
I
day
need to
to
get
sleep.
going. If it's too much of a break, it kind of makes the things drag on a little bit. So yeah, I'm the same. I like to
Yeah.
get going. So
Well, it conserves my time too, right? So then my
hmm.
Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are more open to do other things if I'm out in the community or trying to do some professional development with teachers or something to that effect. I have a lot better scheduling.
Right. It seems like it gives you more flexibility too when
Hmm.
you want it. So that's great. What are some essential skills that students need to learn when going to NDSU, or skills that you would like them to learn once they leave once they leave you in your program?
Yeah. Well, number one is relationship building.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I mean, if you don't have the skill set to build relationships with your K-12 students, then forget it. Anything else I teach you or we learn together about is going to be useless. You have to be able to build relationships.
Right.
Once we do get into the X's and O's, I think understanding backwards design and curriculum development, being able to create your own assessments or find assessments that are aligned to the standards that you're teaching. You have to have those skills because A, the standards are always changing, they're evolving, right?
Right.
Usually for the better. B, you might be the only person at your site. C, you can't depend on any district having a curriculum already in place, right? You might be the person that needs to come in and create the curriculum.
Hmm.
So I think if you can do that, it doesn't matter what new activities come up, parkour, chook ball, all those fun things, right? There's always going to be something new. And if you have those curriculum building skills and alongside with the instructional skills, appropriate
Hmm.
practices, you can really introduce anything in your classrooms.
That makes sense. Like you talked about the backward design and having the assessments aligned. Yeah, that's so important. Like, I know there's so many teachers wanting to introduce new ideas and new content like archery, skateboarding, but where do you start? And a lot of these places they don't have a curriculum that goes with it, so you would have to make up your own curriculum. There's no like kind of cookie cutter. Like sometimes you can buy a program or curriculum, but a lot of these instances there's not. So the teacher would have to create their own. So,
Yeah, and I think along with that, I mean, something that we're understanding better, and I think Massachusetts is a little bit ahead of the curve when we think about whole child approaches.
hmm,
I mean, making sure that you're not only wearing the teacher hat, right, but you're also thinking about how trauma impacts children and what does that look like in your classroom, right? And being able to use trauma-informed practices, helping students build their social emotional learning skills. And so I think there's a lot of things that we have a better understanding of now than we used to. And so are we going to be able to get our initial teachers to that level? Probably not all the way, but they should have foundations in SEL and trauma.
totally agree. That's so important. Every person I've talked to has said what you said about the relationships and about the trauma informed, but they haven't mentioned it about teaching it in the or learning about it in their pre-service years. So that's great that you're able to teach students these skills so they have that foundation. They go out and we don't know where they're going to be, right? They could be in a public setting, private setting. So it's really good to have those skill sets.
Yeah, I'm going to give
Fantastic.
your listeners, sorry to cut you off there.
No
I'm
worries.
going to give your listeners a little plug for I went to an institute a couple of years ago, actually, it was online because of COVID. But oftentimes I think when we think about SEL, we're pretty familiar with Castle and
Hmm.
the
Yep.
Castle 5.
Sure.
But would highly recommend listeners Google look into the Center for Reaching and Teaching the Whole Child.
Hmm.
And they've got a really interesting framework that I think would be highly valuable for folks to look at.
The Center for Reaching and Teaching the Whole Child. Did I get that right?
I got to make sure I've got it right.
Once you do, if you could email me that link, I'll make sure to put it in the show notes so listeners can access that. Center for Reaching and Teaching the Whole Child. And
Yes,
they,
Center for
okay.
Reaching and Teaching the Whole Child. Yeah. So they've got an anchor competency framework that I think is super valuable. They break it down into teacher moves, which are kind of like teaching strategies
Mm,
that you use.
I
So I
like
think
that.
you see it's the overlap with Castle. It just helps define things a little bit further, I think, and
Hmm.
also offers the cultural lens, which is super important.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna look into this myself. That sounds great. Is the curriculum or a model, you would say?
It's a framework
A
model
framework?
they offer
Okay.
professional development and whatnot. And so yeah, so a colleague and I went and did this and then we introduce it into our courses here at NDSU.
That's really awesome. Dr. Lincoln, what are your thoughts about AI as a way to support your learners?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh man. I get
I'm sure you
AI
get a lot of questions.
AI makes me nervous. I have to, that's part of my plan here in the next over the summer is to get better with AI.
Mhm.
I've only started to play with it and see all the interesting things it does. Some things are great and some things, maybe not so great, right?
Right,
Um, but when it comes to my students, I think it's really intriguing, right? And it's a great resource as long as you're using it for good and not for evil. And
right.
if when we have an interesting question arise in class, or there's something that I don't know, I'm like, let's just toss in AI. Let's see what it says, right? It's a great
Hmm.
resource to go and try to get some initial ideas and foundation, but you have to have that critical eye still to know what's good, what's not good. If we're using it for, to help to plan a unit or a lesson plan, I mean, we still need to bring our expertise to the table,
Right.
and be able to decipher what's best practice and what might or may or may not work for our students. So I think it
Right.
has s- some really great features to help with like efficiencies. But I worry about students getting too dependent upon it and
Right.
not thinking for themselves. But that's what my job is, right? Like I
Right.
need to be able to navigate that and help them in that process.
Right. Well, there's a like you said, it could be used as a tool, but then it doesn't have the human side, the social stuff. It spits out information, and as you know, the better input you put in, the better
Mm.
input that comes out. So, I'm you starting to use that in my school a little bit. Something called Insta Lesson, but I'm still playing around with that and seeing how it fits in with everything. Like it doesn't give you the standards, but you'd have to know the standards anyway. So I think there's definitely pros and cons.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can be used for a variety of things. It's just a matter of, is it high quality? And
Right.
just and again, as long as people are using that critical eye and not just abandoning their working brain and just giving themselves to the AI, because there's a lot of things that, the output isn't correct because of
Hmm.
some of the false inputs that have gone in. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's gonna be really interesting to see what we do with it in education. But I never think it's going to replace the human being. Although that movie I, Robot back in the day
All
scared.
right.
I'm like, oh gosh, this is what's happening now. Where's Will Smith when I need him?
I know, right? No, I know that was a crazy movie. Like it's just everything's getting so automated and so, technologically advanced. So it's like it's something else. So what advice would you give someone new entering the field?
So entering K-12.
Yeah, entering K-12 physical education.
Well, number one, I'd say they got to know the names of their students. That is top notch. You have to know the names of your students, and make sure you're saying them correctly. And don't be afraid to ask repeatedly if you are saying their name correctly or
Hmm.
need to work on the pronunciation, right? That's names are so powerful for people.
Hmm.
So I would say that and building relationships. I think for our newer teachers, depending on what kind of situation they find themselves in their first job, it could be a great setting where maybe there's a lot of appropriate practice going on. We've got standards-based lessons. We're using appropriate practice, but it could also be a situation where it's not that, right? And if you
Right.
find yourself in that situation, you have to be strong-willed enough to not let all the good things you learned in your undergrad education wash out, right? And you have to be
Mm.
able to stand your ground. I also think it's really important to seek out mentorship.
Hmm.
Don't forget your professors from your undergrad degree. They're always going to be there to help you. Um, and not be afraid to ask questions. Like you're going to have a lot of questions, and that's totally okay. As Dr. Judy Rink would say, it's okay to be a beginner, right?
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
so you have to be that willingness to be vulnerable, to acknowledge that you don't know everything. And I've been in this field now for over 20 years, and there are still things I do not know that amaze me.
It's okay to be a beginner, right? You gotta
It's
start like
absolutely keep
that.
learning, take
It's so
advantage of
important.
all the PD, all the opportunities that come your way. Say yes when those things knock on your door.
Great advice. Great advice. Say yes, find a mentor, keep asking questions, keep learning. So I was looking on your site a few weeks ago, and there's a program. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's called Let's Move in Homeschool. Is that right?
Yes.
Can you tell us a little, our listeners, more about that program? What it is, what the goals of it is, how it got started, things of that nature.
Yeah, so I think somewhere along the way, early on in my career, I was at a shape convention and I stumbled upon somebody doing a presentation about hosting a homeschool PE program on their campus. And I thought,
Hmm.
geez, that is genius. And then when it came to NDSU, that was one of the things that was high on my list of things I wanted to do. I'm really community oriented. My fear of coming to NDSU, knowing it's a high intensive research institution, was would my service learning style contributions to the community be valued, which they absolutely are here. We're a land grant institution. So right away, I got in touch and with homeschool families and gauged some of their interest and kicked off a program. And so what happens is on Tuesdays, 10 times a semester, so we did this in the fall and the spring, homeschool families with children ages 4 to 12 years up to like 13. They come to our campus and our undergrad students teach their classes. So they actually have their own class. It would be 3 or 4 undergrad students, and they have their own class of like 20 students. We bring on about 80 to 100 students onto the campus every year.
Wow.
Yep, that attend. And we've been doing this for 13 years.
So is
Uh,
this something they apply for, or how do they get chosen to be?
Yeah,
Um,
I just open registration and it's
okay,
first serve.
got it.
And in the fall we do a psychomotor uh focus with the kiddos.
Hmm.
And then in the spring we actually use Shape America's Physical Best curriculum and do more of a fitness based education program for our families. And then it evolved. So we have a health undergrad degree as well as our
Hmm.
PE degree, and our students, 95% of them double major in both. And so we added the health component. So now when they come to campus, they get a health lesson and a PE lesson.
Wow.
And that's really been advantageous for our undergrad students to get that. So every undergrad in our program will teach in that program in their spring of their junior year and the fall of their senior year. And so that has been a game changer, I think, as far as building their autonomy and their skill sets and whatnot. So it's been really interesting when COVID hit.
Hmm.
It was really devastating because like, what are we going to do? We can't let go of this. It's such a valuable experience. And I said to
Right.
my health ed colleague, I go, okay, here's the deal. Our schools locally are using Seesaw. And I said, can you and I learn Seesaw and teach it to our undergrad students in like 2 weeks and do this? And he said, let's do it. So we did. And it was crazy. We had people from all over the world enrolled in our
Really?
online PE program. It was crazy. I don't even know how people found us. There were people from Malaysia, Japan, England.
Wow. Word of mouth. They heard about the good program.
Yeah, it was nuts. So we did that for like a year.
Wow.
Yeah, we wrote an article about it. I can't remember if it was in Jopert or Strategies, but we called it online PE like 2.0 or yeah, something to that effect. It was pretty funny.
I'm gonna try to research that article because I definitely want to link that in if possible. That sounds really interesting. So this is a really unique program. Are there any other institutions doing this, or are you the only one?
Nope, there's quite a few
Really? Okay.
across the country. Yep, even just coming back from Baltimore, I know there was I think a group that did one there, but I know there's some in Kentucky.
Hmm.
Uh, Years and years ago, I presented with somebody from the Salt Lake area
Hmm.
that they had a program. So it's grown a little bit. My colleague in Jamestown, he after hearing about what we were doing, he wanted to do that for the homeschool families in his area as well. So, I mean, we don't really have a good gauge as to exactly how many are going on, but you just
Hmm.
anecdotally find people at conference or you
Right.
start going around, you can kind of find some of them.
Okay. Kind of gravitate toward each other, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, you just find like, folks and they ask, we've had a lot of people reach out to us and say, how do you do this? How did you start it? How much do you charge? All those things.
And how do you, what happened if there's COVID? Seesaw, you know, Zoom. So Seesaw is that's for I've heard of the platform, but it can be to any level, right? K to 12, or is it mainly for younger students?
It's mostly used at elementary level. Yeah.
Elementary level? Okay.
Yeah. But what I love about Seesaw is that it really embraces universal design for learning
Hmm.
because if you were to post some sort of assessment, um, the students can respond by typing, recording, drawing. I mean, it's
Hmm.
pretty nifty. So it philosophically fit in with what we do. And so it was an easy ad for us. It made sense. And yeah, our
Well,
students started doing things with it that they were teaching me what to do.
wow. Yeah, I mean, you know how it is. Students pick up stuff so quickly. So
Yeah.
multiple options, multiple means of representation. I love UDL. I could talk about that all day.
Oh, yeah.
Let's actually, this isn't on the script, but let me ask you, how does obviously you incorporate it, but how specifically do you incorporate UDL at your institution, or how do you specifically incorporate it into your class structure or lessons?
Yeah. Well, I personally will integrate it in little ways, like
Hmm.
planting seeds, or like our students will be teaching each other, and I'll say, "Oh, see what they just did there? Like they just allowed you to use a variety of responses.
Hmm.
You had the choice between this or this, or look at all the different equipment we can use, right?
Hmm.
So I kind of pointed out, and then more, so they get the framework, they get into multiple places. And as we talk amongst ourselves as faculty, we realize more of us are doing this than we think.
Right.
But for sure in our adapted class, we have it. My junior methods course, I go through it, but then they also take a core of education courses.
Hmm.
And we have a class, Education 489, where one of our professors, that's what it starts off with. And it's kind of like the premier framework that's then revisited throughout the semester. So by the time our students leave, they are pretty well versed in UDL. And I love that textbook that, well, it's not a textbook, but a book came out for UDL in PE.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah. I have that one too. Actually, I have the digital
yeah, it's
copy
a
of
great
that.
book.
Yeah, it is
Great.
a great book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, we did in our district a few years ago. We did some work. We had some guests come in from cast and teach us, and we've had a lot of PD on it. But we went into the elementary schools and middle schools and video recorded the lessons and pointed out, well, this is where they're using this options. This is where they're using engagement. So it's really interesting. So Dr. Linker, in your work with stakeholders and other professionals, what are some common questions you might get in regard to the program or what's happening?
Um, I mean, I would say we get probably more questions about the master's programs.
Hmm.
Usually the questions are, is your program fully online? Which it is. We offer it asynchronously because we have people who are primarily coaching and teaching or doing the 500 hats that we all like to wear.
Hmm.
And so
Right.
offering that flexibility, that's another question, do I have to take classes, 2 classes every semester? No, you can take them whatever works best for your schedule.
Hmm.
Um, when can I start the program? You can start summer, fall, or spring. Is the curriculum prescribed? Like, is it these 10 classes and you're done? Nope. We have 3 required classes and you get to choose the other 7 electives. And I'm really proud of our electives. We offer some really cool classes that will appeal to people who are looking to be in leadership roles, and they enhance their coaching, enhance their teaching. There's a little something in all the areas that it's kind of like the masters I wish I had. No offense to Bridgewater, they did a
Right.
great job. But this is what I really would have wanted was this.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
could you give an example of like some of the options they might be able to take?
Yeah, so we do a sports psychology class, we
Hmm.
have a society and sport class, we have SEL via adventure education,
Oh, wow.
psychology of teaching physical education. I teach a class, it's based off CISPAP's comprehensive school physical activity programs.
Hmm.
That's actually the class I'm teaching this summer. That's my wheelhouse, that's my jam, that's my love. I am super passionate about having as much physical activity as we can possibly put in the school day available to students to partake in. Um,
So in that program, there's other stakeholders or other kind of partners you work with, right? In that program, or is it school based? What's the best way to describe that program?
that master's program is pretty much practitioner based. It's really for the current teacher, professional, or coaching professional that's looking to advance their their knowledge in their field,
Right.
or advance at the pay scale, as sometimes we like to we think, depending what state you're in. So really, in that program, I mean, we don't cross over too much into the other areas, but with our undergrad program, I mean, we definitely have more partnerships, right?
Mm.
So our homeschool families are one of our stakeholders. Our local schools clearly stakeholders, whether our students are going out and doing observations with mentor teachers, or we have cooperating teachers that take our student teachers, so we work with them, as far as like what's going on in your district, what can we do to be helpful. Um, and then again, around the CISPAP, my colleague who's across the river, or actually she's in Minnesota at Concordia College, we do some consulting work called Schools Alive.
Mm.
And we started Schools Alive, oof, I mean, it's got to be 13 years ago. It was the year after I moved here because we were very passionate about CISPAPs and we wanted to help this become more of a priority in our schools. And so we had gotten some grants, gotten equipment for folks. We've provided training in active recess, active classrooms. That's actually probably the one that's most popular, is professional development for classroom teachers and how to integrate more physical activity across the school day. And so, you think about your stakeholders and your partners, and I think about
Mm.
as a parent, what do I want my child's experience to be? He's only in first grade, but I want him to have opportunities to move throughout the day. He needs that, right? It helps his
Right.
brain. So just sharing that passion for what it can do for our kids, why it's so important. Um, that's really probably been the biggest piece with our stakeholders that we've invested in.
That's fantastic. So that's called Schools Alive.
School's alive. Yeah.
Okay. We'll link that in the show notes too. So we got
Sure.
about five or six,
We don't
five or
have any we don't have any fancy web pages. We just have some, Facebook stuff. We're kind of old school. It's kind of like this thing that we do on the side that we're excited about, but we haven't like turned it into this like full functioning business by any means.
No, that's okay. I mean, it sounds like it's pretty it's valuable. So we'll definitely link that in. Do you have any research interests that you currently are in now, or have you done in the past, or what's going on the research end on your end
Yeah,
for you?
from a research perspective, I would say
Yeah.
most of what I've done is around comprehensive school physical activity programs,
Hmm.
a lot of practitioner-based articles and Jopert or strategies. Um, Certainly our homeschool program, we've written a couple of articles about that, like how we facilitate it. Um, but probably, the biggest one would be like the active recess and active classrooms and how do you facilitate that and what to look for and how do we make sure that every child's having a good recess experience, right? One of the funniest pieces of our research study that we were doing, we were interviewing fourth grade students.
Hmm.
Now, we had previously worked with their schools in regards to some of the appropriate practices around CISPAPs. And at one point, these fourth grade students had told us that, when they need to move, they just tell their teacher and they say, we need to do brain boosts. Um, and that's the terminology that we use. We say brain boost. We don't say brain break because break sounds like, it's a timeout. No, we want to boost up that brain and get it fired up, right? With some cardio.
Hmm.
And so they started telling us, like, we said, well, what's a brain boost? And they did this active learning definition thing that we do in our trainings, and they did it in front of us, and we were just laughing because like it's coming full circle, like they get it, right? So that was really gratifying and exciting to kind of see in the moment. And with students, if they don't understand why they're doing something, right? Sometimes we just do it and we want them to assume that it's good for them, right? Because we're the teacher and we're telling them to do it. But you
Right.
have to go back to the why. Like, why are we doing this? What benefit does it have?
Yeah, that's so important. I agree 100%. It's one of the things that when I was in my prior role, I was trying to tell the teachers like you have to have that why in there. What are we doing? Why and how you know you learned it, and how can you
Mhm.
apply it? And then when they're not going to be with us forever, obviously. So how can they be active outside of the school day as well, or with their caregivers or grandparents, their family members. So
Well, it
that's
goes to
so
experiential learning theory. You're talking Dewey and Kolb. It's what happened, so what does it matter, and now what? Like, what are we going to do with this?
right, exactly. So
Yeah.
no, that's so important. We're coming down, Dr. Link, to the close of the podcast, but just a couple more questions. So, what do you hope to see in the future? This can either be personal or professional. And what goals do you have? Again, personal, professional.
Yeah, this is a really interesting question at this time because I will be stepping down from this head role and I'll go back to being in my professor role and program coordinator role. And
Hmm.
it's kind of interesting when you're in higher education as a professor, right? You kind of come in and your first goal is automatically prescribed for you. Like I gotta get to the associate level. And then once you get to an associate professor level, you're like, okay, I gotta get to the full professor level. Well, I
Hmm.
reached that. Now I'm like, now what? I get to make my own choices about what the goals are. So I think, for me personally, it's this year has been really good for me and from a learning perspective. But to get back to my roots and my why, right? The
Hmm.
why do I do this? I do this because I want to see K-12 kiddos active, finding something that they enjoy, feeling competent in what they are doing, so they do it outside of our classrooms.
Hmm.
And for me, I think that means going back out into the community and getting back involved with the things that I was doing, probably 4 or 5 years ago before I was trying to chase, do I have enough research publications? Do I have enough of this? Do I have enough grants? It's sometimes what's driving those goals isn't necessarily always what you want it to be. And so what's your
Right.
passion? And the now what? It's kind of exciting. It's like I can do anything.
That's great. Yeah, like you said, there's some hoops you got to jump through to get to that level. But then once you're there, now you have everything's open right now for you. You can choose what you want because you've reached that level, right? So
Yeah.
no one's saying you have to do this or have to do that. So you're gonna go back and help, like you say, the kiddos out, K to 12. That's great. You definitely hear the passion in your voice, and so that's awesome. So, Dr. Linker, how can our listeners connect with you? Are you on any social media, email? What's the best way? If anybody has a question, follow-up question. And if not, that's totally fine. I mean, whatever ways works for you.
Yeah, I have just not kept up with all the tweeting and the social media probably the way I should. But the easiest way is to call me or to email me.
Email. Okay, so if I put a
Email's
link,
great.
oh, email, sure. I can put that in the show notes.
Yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I do a
Well,
terrible job of self-promotion. So it's I feel like if I was tweeting all the time or doing some of these other things to help promote like the cool things we have going on, which I should do more of, the advocacy piece, right? Everyone needs advocacy skills. The problem is I'm more about the doing.
well, that's
So
what it is. I mean, it's you got to get those action steps in, right? It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to do it. So it's that kind of action philosophy, right? How are we going
yeah.
to get there? So
Yeah, I mean, I'd love it if anyone's contemplating a master's degree that's flexible, highly affordable, all in 30 credits. You're just about 14,600. I would love to
wow,
chat with about our program. Yeah, it's
that is reasonable.
everyone gets in-state tuition, and in North Dakota, growing up in Massachusetts, I mean, I think when I finished my master's degree at the time, it was about $11,000, and that was many, many moons ago. So the fact that we're at about 14.6 all in, I mean, super competitive, and I think it's a high quality program, of course, but I'm biased.
That's
So
okay. And you have it's a variety, right? It's not it sounds like it's really unique too with the courses you offer and all the benefits. So and they get you. They get to see you.
yeah, and Dr. Deutsch, he's the incoming. He just was handed the gavel at the
Yeah.
SHAPE convention this last convention here in Baltimore. So he's my colleague, and then we also got another Massachusetts professor out here, Dr. Brandon Foy. So
Oh
there's no
wow.
you could be in classes with a lot of people from all over the country and even the world, but you're still going to have some people that are, raving about Tom Brady and the Boston Red Sox.
Oh yeah, that'll always happen, right? We got those socks.
You never let go of those things.
Yeah, no, we love our sports teams.
We sure do.
Dr. Linker, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. It was great chatting with you. Definitely learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners learned a lot too. If you have any questions, you could always email us at mayfordpodcast@gmail.com. We'll have this episode uploaded soon, and we're also asking our listeners to leave a review if this podcast has been helpful in supporting you in any way, as it does help other folks find it. Thank you all for listening. Have a great week, and we'll be back soon. Take care, Dr. Linker.
Bye, Jake. Thank you.